which is all around us. You all see this, because Uber Eats is one example. Food's been around forever. Restaurants have been around forever. Home delivery is somewhat new. Home delivery in a freelance ride-sharing taxi service is very new, Uber Eats. So the moral of that story is, look at the physical universe, look at all the things that we do and need, look at every kind of traditional business, and think about what's the digital version look like. Because there's another 1,000 businesses coming that are the digital version, or doesn't mean instead of, but the complement to an existing business. So rather than look at a sector, I would look at areas where, taking a traditional business model and adding some digital aspect to it could give me extra growth, faster growth, X times 2 times 10. Because, I think that applies to lots of things.
Are we driven by convenience?
I think so. We're driven by things, in a world, we're driven by things that make life easier, but I also think we're driven by things that make us feel human and comfortable, No one's going to ever digitize my latte in the morning, and I happen to like bananas, I don't know why, but I'm never going to go for a digital banana. But I think, it's interesting, sometimes technology, you might think it makes us feel less involved, but I'm an investor in a business called Shortlister, which is an online recruiting system that allows companies to match culture against who they're recruiting. And that's not a plug for them, but it's an example of how a piece of technology makes it more likely that if you apply for a job, you're going to know before you take the job that you're a good cultural fit to that company. In other words, you're going to fit in well. Now, in the old days, you had to rely on either you asking the right questions or the person hiring you making sure that you were, what do you mean you don't want to work before noon? That's not going to work around here. Or what do you mean you can't work, in the evening? Whatever. All the questions that you find, oh my God, I wish they told me that a month before I joined. I'm here in this company a month later. So there's a piece of technology where the company loads up its cultural profile. You check those questions and match yourself against it, and it spits out and says you're an 82% match against this company. So you now go forward with your application knowing fairly confidently that you're going to be a good fit and it's not going to be a screw up for you taking the job. So there's a piece of technology that actually helps, at the human side of us and helps us get closer, not further away.
Sure, definitely. I think the best thing that we took away from Andrew is our very first training session. I remember we were up in the Skyloft up in Brisbane, and the feedback was, Jack and Ryan, there are only one of you. There's only one of each of you. So for as long as you think you're going to keep going from business to business, day on day, training, eventually you will reach your price ceiling. You will have exercised your full price elasticity, right? And that's real. It doesn't matter how good you are. It's only so much you can charge someone for one day of your time. At that point, 85% of our revenue came from physical training, either our weekend boot camps or us going into people's businesses and working with them directly. And you gave us not only the confidence, but also a strategy that would allow us to start to deliver a world-class digital program. Suddenly, we had this huge economy of scale. We went from working in 2 cities to working in 4 continents in the space of 6 weeks.
Wow.
And now, 80% of our revenue is delivered through digital training, which we still happen, through way of good support, to get the same quality feedback from. So, you will be happy to know we only have 2 more boot camps, September and December. We are stopping that service and going down the path that you have created in purely being digital. What are the benefits to the guys in here?
So I some of you know I was an actor, and if you know much about actors, you know that they are introverts, quite quiet. I studied medicine for a year, and I kept fainting at the sight of blood. So and then I flipped, this was in London, I flipped to applied biology, which is almost as boring as medicine. And you have to cut up dogfish, and that was the smell of formaldehyde, which was even worse. And I was quite a quiet guy. I wasn't a mouse, but I was quite quiet, and I'd never sold a thing in my life. And then I saw a an advert in the paper in London called Easy Bread for Long-Haired Loafers. And by the way, in those days I had hair longer than you. And this is London, you know, Carnaby Street, 1970, you know. You wouldn't recognise me. Anyway, cut a long story short, I found myself selling paintings door to door in my university time off. And it was a sort of a bit of an epiphany moment. They dropped me, you had 10 large paintings and 4 small, and the deal was you had to pay them £6 for every large one and £4 for every small, and anything over that you kept. This was in the days, I'm showing my age here, but you earned £440 a year as a university grant, so £440 a year was a good number. So they dropped me off in this corner. I never told you this story, but they dropped me off in this corner with 10 large and 6 small paintings, along with 5 other guys, because it's like a whole network. It was actually run by an Australian. You drop off in a housing estate, new houses, white walls, and they said, off you go. No sales training. Anyway, so they came back 4 hours later and they picked me up, and the guy jumps out of the car and goes, "Where are the paintings?" And I said, "I've sold them. That's what you told me to do." And he said, "I don't believe you, no one's ever sold a folder." I said, "Well, I'm sorry, but I sold them." And I realised that there was a salesman in there somewhere. But I had to wing it all at the door. Now, the key message was I really loved the paintings, and I thought they were a lot better value than the horrible prints you bought at Boots the Chemist or whatever was going on at the time. And I found myself going to the door and really believing in what I was doing. And I said, "Hi, I represent a group of young artists. Would you mind letting me in so I can show you their work?" And I got very excited, enthusiastic, and it worked. And the message for me was, well, I don't know how, no one's ever trained me how to sell, but if you believe in what you're doing and you're passionate, you can go through brick walls. And from then on, I started to study the whole concept, the science of selling. And the reason I love these guys and why I feel the digital version is important is the other thing I learned is you can't learn selling in a hyped up session, no matter how great it is, in 3 hours. You change your behaviours over probably 10 to 12 weeks. And what I loved about the idea of learning this on a drip feed basis in the quiet of your own home or your office is that slowly it changes your behaviour. And then all the things you've already heard today and you will hear, language, tone, body language, techniques, open, closes. Nobody ever told me what an objection was. What's an objection? Handle objection. What do you do to, there is an anatomy of an objection, and it'll tell you about it better than I can. But one of the first things you do when you hear an objection is ask a question. No one told me that, and then when I learned that, I thought, great. So then Morgan & Banks, all the training that we did, we had scripts, we taught people how to sound on the phone. We knew that the first objection when you're a recruiter ringing up saying, "I notice you're advertising for a sales manager, I'd like to help you recruit one," terrible script. They'd go, "Sorry, we don't want to pay your fee and we've already got a lot of applications." So we changed the script to, "Hello, I notice you're advertising for a sales manager. If we came up with someone who met all your qualifications, would you consider them?" See how much better that sounds? I'm not quite as good as this guy, but you get me. And so we ended up with 17% market share. And we had 3,000 competitors when we started. There were 3,000 little small employment agencies. So we were highly competitive, no barriers to entry. And the two things that made the difference is we hired people who were right. We obviously knew how to do that. Good attributes. They wanted to be in recruiting. They loved it. They were passionate about it. And the second thing is we trained them how to sell. Not in a sleazy way, not in a dishonest way, but a very forceful, confident, direct way. So I think it's a lost art. I know, I'm sounding too much like I'm plugging it, but that is why I'm here, it's true. And the other thing is, you can't learn it in a day. I went to those American conferences where the guy walked in with little cans, like a big, and he used to throw them into the audience. "Success comes in cans, not cannots." And they were always the same. They had white shirts and red braces and all that stuff. But, and it was good, it was motivating, and then I'd leave and go, I didn't really learn much. So I was passionate about the digital thing because human beings need 8, 10, 12 weeks for this stuff to soak in and learn it. And that's why I felt the online meeting was the best.
It's very humbling to have your belief, first of all, in our skill set, and also your backing. Are you guys enjoying this?
Yeah.
Yeah? One more time?
Yeah.
Okay, that's good. The next 20-ish minutes, 22 minutes, we're looking to take as many questions as we can from the floor. Andrew's already been briefed on the fact he's going to be nice and short and sharp with his answers so we can work around as many people as possible. Of course, there are people here in the front 2 rows that have kindly donated $27 to an amazing organisation called Living. Living is an organisation that gives a platform for people with mental health challenges to have open conversations. Their philosophy is that it's not weak to speak, right? We all go through challenges as entrepreneurs. We all suffer burnout. We all second guess ourselves. Sometimes we have adversity in our life and we need to be able to talk about it. And we're extremely proud for the 3 seminars that we're doing in Sydney, Brisbane and Gold Coast for the next 3 weeks. The people who have been kind enough to make that small donation will all go to a great cause. So for one more time, give yourselves a good round of applause. Thanks, guys. What that has done is given you guys the opportunity, obviously, to have our action audio book. I hope you guys have downloaded that and enjoying listening and reading to it. Listening to it and reading it. It also gives you an opportunity to be able to ask some questions to Andrew, and then just as he leaves, in an orderly fashion for 2 or 3 minutes, we're going to get you guys to follow him out, and in front of our media wall, just outside the door, you're going to have an opportunity to have your own photograph. It's great for LinkedIn, it's great for networking. This man builds a lot of credibility in you and your brand, so thank you very much. We appreciate you guys doing it, but it means the dance floor is now yours. Who would like to ask a question? I think Damon put his hand up first. I will come to you straight after, my friend. Fire away.
Andrew, when you were doing Shark Tank, what was the turning point for you?
And the question then was, when it comes to Shark Tank, what was the turning point for you?
In these guys, yeah.
Well, for these guys?
Yeah, when they were doing like you obviously
well,
impressions.
I was absolutely honest where I feel there's been a vacuum in Australia for Australian sales content. There's lots of content out there, but and don't get me wrong, Grant Cardone, who's just had 6,000 people in a room and who's a good buddy of mine, but tired of missing sales.com doesn't work in this country as well. So I love him, but wanted local content. So I believed there was a gap. They, as you would have, if you looked at the Shark Tank, they were in recruitment and training, and so I thought, hello, I know a bit about that, and I listened to the business model, and then I thought, if I invest, I'd love them to basically shut down the recruiting business and focus on the training.
3 weeks later.
So you may not have seen the whole transcript, but in the pitch, I was testing them to see if they were flexible to actually turn their business on its head, and they were. And then I also loved the personal journeys that they've all made, which were not, straight up and vertical and born with silver spoons and everything was wonderful and my life has never missed a beat. They were very honest and real about their journeys. So I just felt I could work with them. And in fact, it was Steve was on one side and Glenn was there. It's one of the few pitches, maybe the only pitch that got 3 sharks. So we all saw the benefit and we see the opportunity. And honestly, I'm an adopted Aussie. I came here in '72, and in my head I'm an Aussie. I'm not a Brit, and I think I left. No disrespect to all of us, some of us in the room, because probably 20% of you, like me, would come from England. But I love the absence of class structure and the meritocracy side of Australia, which we all, understand is a gift. But I felt Australians had caught a little bit of the British disease, which is they apologise for selling, and I didn't grow up in a family where they said used car salesman a lot, but there was, I got that whiff of, if you're selling, there must be something wrong with you, you're nasty, this dark. So, and I think that's bullshit. And I think the one thing missing in Australian business is a confident, more American approach to the fact that if you believe in what you're doing and what you're selling is good, then selling is a great thing. You should be proud of it and you should do it. And if people give you objections or don't want it, that's fine. But, so I felt, and that's something that I'd like to see Australian business a bit more proactive about. We're in sales mode and we're proud of it.
Yeah, good stuff. Next question.
This is about businesses coming to investors. As an investor, how do you like to be approached or sold to from business? What tips could you give a business in getting investment and
Yep.
selling their business?
The question there was, just in case anybody at the back can't hear, the question there was, as an investor, how do you prefer to have the product, the service, the proposal presented and or sold to you? What's the method that is best practice that would encourage you to, invest in that company?
So the boxes I tick when I'm looking or listening, or either listening to someone or looking at an IM, the common method of how people would pitch someone like me is called an IM, an investment memorandum, which is really a slide deck. But the key boxes that go through my head is, can you explain the business model, quickly and efficiently? 90 seconds would be, not absolute. And also, could my grandma or my 15-year-old grandkid understand it? Simple, clear. I mean, okay, if you're in artificial intelligence and you're helping things in, that might be a bit harder. But most businesses, you should be able to explain it to someone pretty quickly. Elevator pitch. Secondly, then I go to where are you in your journey? Is this just an idea or do you have traction? So there's some evidence that this idea is now turning into a reality.
How much traction would you prefer a company to have? Because I think some people in here would like to capital raise, but they just want to come at the right time to get a fair and reasonable valuation. So when's the right time in the traction journey to approach?
So you've heard the concept seed round. I think if you don't have much traction, or you really got an idea and you're turning it into an app, or you really have not only a couple of dots, you need a seed round, and you don't want to come to someone like me or any other investor for a seed
you
round.
alive.
Because, well, we'll just take too much of your company, and that's what family and friends are for, or a bit of crowdfunding, But I think, so I would say probably a year or so in time, or you can string 3 quarters together showing the dots are linking and working, and this thing has got traction. I've got customers, I've got revenue, I can prove to you that it's got traction. Third box, how big is the opportunity? What I said earlier. Is this a tiny market, a local market, a national market, a global market? Is it a lucrative sector? There are certain sectors I like more than others, but there'll be lots of investors. Some investors like medical and government. I hate it because it's too regulated. I like deregulated markets where me and myself, the entrepreneur, and what we do makes a difference. We're not stuck with too much red tape. On the other hand, I am an investor in some biotech. And then the fourth box is the person or the people or the team. Are they sane, stable, in present time? Do they make sense to me? Have they got a lot of gas in their tank? And can I work? And then the last one is valuation. If it's on the edge, but it's a sensible valuation, might tip me over. If it's, really amazing and sensibly priced, all good, sometimes the valuations can be a bit crazy, and then that makes you think, well, the risk's much higher, so now I want to go back and got more evidence in those other boxes.
Right, thank you.
That's amazing. Yes, ma'am, I'll jump to you straight afterwards.
How do we get the opportunity to actually present to you?
The question was, how can we have the opportunity to present to you? Can I just ask, are the guys in the back hearing when people are asking their question?
Yeah, always.
Yes, perfect.
So the short answer is because I'm time poor, and also because if I sat in a room and we did 7 pitches a day on Shark Tank, if I tried to do that, that's all I'd be doing, sitting in a room. So the best thing is you put together an IM, a deck, and you send it to me on LinkedIn. And I've read every IM that's ever been sent to me, and I've replied to everybody that's ever asked me a question on LinkedIn. I haven't always said yes, but I've usually given them advice, or I've given them, because obviously I can't invest in it. I've probably got about 20 minority investments at the moment. That in itself is a limiting factor, because if I spread myself too thin, then I'm no use to the people I'm investing in. So I'm at the moment at the stage where I'm looking to harvest a couple, so sell out. They've done well, and then I would reinvest. So I have a rhythm of investing too. So there'll be a whole bunch of reasons, but I'd certainly give you feedback on your IM.
Interesting.
Yes.
Thanks for the question.
What are some of the most common mistakes small, medium businesses make in recruiting?
Well, I think it's not just small and medium business. I think it's any business. They don't have a clear view of what the real job is. So they don't sit down and say, this is the work. Often they say, well, this is the work I need done, or here's a problem I've got. and they just recruit from the resume, you know, or CV, whatever you want to call it. So in my opinion, human beings in recruitment world are three things. SKA. Skills, knowledge, attributes. You can write that down. SKA, it's an Andrew Banks. Skills are the doing things. So you're ambidextrous, good with numbers, you're not colourblind, all the sort of doing things. Knowledge is the data loaded on your chip. That's the resume. It's what you used to think about. It's your experience. It's the English degree, the accounting qualification. Attributes, that's who you are. That's your passion, your interest, your energy. And there's a famous saying, there's a famous story, which I think you've heard before, in Neiman Marcus, which is a big American retailer. People, the share price is through the roof. This is about 10 years ago, and they're going crazy, and the analysts are all running around the store, and they say to the CEO, "These people you've got here are amazing. Who trains them?" And he says, "Their mothers do." And what he meant by that was, he hires on attributes, the person. So in an interview, mostly companies I hear saying, you know, where did you work? What did you do? You know, what have you, you know, what's your experience? They're basically stuck on S&K. And where they hire people because of S&K and they fire them because of A. They didn't sit down and say, what's your name?
Michael.
Michael. So Michael, first question in all my interviews, why are you here? Tell me, why are you looking for this job at this particular moment in your life? Tell me that. Now I want to know why you're here, what's your ambition, where you want to go. And forget this job for a minute, because I might have lots of other jobs. What's the ideal next job for you? So I want to hear where this human being's energy wants to go. Before I start throwing job descriptions at them and telling them what I want. Because if they really need a job, they're going to sit there and agree with me. And I may not want them to agree with me, because it may be that this is not the job for them. So I find out preferences, interest, passion. Then I might go to broader conversation, like tell me, what sort of conversation did you grow up at the dinner table with? See? I'm not labelling, I didn't say, what did your father do for a living? Or where do you live? Or, you know, how much money? Or did you have a private school? I said, what sort of conversation did you grow up at the dinner table with? Now you could say, we didn't have a dinner table. we were, if I was using his accent, I'd say we're down the road there in the bloody York. But, so you see, it's just a conversation, because I want to know more about you. And then from attributes, I will then obviously spread to, well, let me tell you a bit about the job. But just remember, the resume is useful to a point, but it's what people used to think about. You're hiring people today on how they think and what they will do. And I'm a great believer that if you've got a good attitude and they want this job and they're passionate about it and they've got ability, you know, and energy, I can train them to do anything. And I think too often we want someone who's been there, done it, the resume is perfect, and we're hiring out of the rear vision mirror, not the front screen. So I think just having deeper, better questions, taking a bit more time. It might be more time consuming, but in the end it'll save you time and money because you'll have fewer mistakes. By the way, no one is 100%. I'm not 100%. It's impossible, because we're all unrepeatable miracles. And I used to say, if there's 100 points for a perfect hire, 20 points for the interview, it's a crime scene, we're just collecting information, 40 points for reference checking what I found out about the interview with past performance, 20% around the attitudes and behavioural, but the last 20% is impossible. You know why? Because if I take you out of one organisation and I put you in another with a different culture, your behaviours change. It could change for the better, it could change for the worse. That's why knowing a bit about your own culture in your company is also important for that last 20%. Because if you come into an environment, you know, let's take something very topical. We won't go there, but let's take Israel Folau. You know, the rugby ball. So let's make no judgment about him, but let's say we didn't know his strong feelings in certain areas and we put him into an organisation where those feelings and attitudes were very different. No matter how great an athlete he was and is, there was You know? So that's just an example. Anyway, did I answer the question?
Obviously, Andrew's time's very precious, and although I'd love to sit here personally, I'd lock that door and none of us leave. Just get the sleeping bags out. We can stay here all day, but we will only be able to have a few more. So keep trying to make sure they're as effective as is possible. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, if you were to look back to your early years, starting out to where you are today, what would you have told your younger self?
What have I told my younger self? Get on with this. You know, you're so slow. I'm 18 and I'm mixed up. Chose the wrong degree. Dropped out after 2 years. Acting for 2 years. I can honestly say I was happy between 18 and 28, but I didn't know what I wanted to do. I was all over the place. So I think I would have told my younger self to just chill, relax. It's gonna be all right in the end. Because I think I was a very nervous, unfulfilled 27-year-old, and then at 28 I got it.
age.
So I think just have belief in yourself. Make sure every day's a win. Even if you're doing a job that you think is beneath yourself, or running a business where you think it's a bit boring, make every day a win. To be the best that you can be. And that's what we're all trying to do. You're here today because you want to be better versions of yourself in the area of sales. So I think having that attitude. So I probably gave myself a bit too much of a hard time. Why aren't you successful at 24? And I think I would have just told myself, chill out. It'll work out as it did.
Has anybody else been guilty of that? Yeah, just a little bit. Let's keep going. Yes, sir.
So what do you think is the best way for a B2B business to scale?
Business to business. What's the best way for B2B, business to business, to scale?
So for example, we're a startup and we've got customers on board at the moment and we're ready to scale that with our product and platform. So what would be the best way? Sales or otherwise?
Have you got existing customers? All right, so I think because it's could be a long answer. I'll give you the short answer. I would use the ladder of loyalty. There you go. So one of the best things we were a classic B2B business, right? Recruiter is a B2B business. And so we had temps as well as perm, and we did a very quick exercise. Who's used us once? Where we've sent an invoice to them in the last 12 months once. We found this horrible pyramid. Very few customers had used us multiple times, and hardly any were advocates. So the ladder of loyalty goes like this. Prospect, I think I want to do business. Suspect, I think I want to do business. Prospect, I know I want to do business because they use my competitors. Customer, use me once. Client, use me lots of times. Advocate, use me all the time and tells the world how amazing I am. So I bet you, if you're B2B, you take all those people who've only used you once or on one service, get them to use you more than once, multiple services. That's the fastest way to grow a B2B business, I've seen.
So to give some more context, we have an ongoing subscription service as the primary product.
Yeah.
So, high upfront and then an ongoing continuous subscription. So from an additional sales point of view.
Well, that's just a way of paying. That's really just deciding how you want to sell your service, a subscription service. But I mean, it's not necessarily another product. I mean, I would ask your customers. Have you asked your customers lately what is it that you're not getting from us that you would buy from us if we had it? We did that, and they said, well, you give us accountants, Andrew, but you don't give us engineers. Guess what? We're opening into engineers now. So I think subscription is a payment model. It's not necessarily an expansion of your business product and service.
Who else is in B2B? Quickly show their hands. Who else is in B2B? Cool. If you haven't before, I would highly recommend a piece of literature by an author called Aaron Ross. The book is called Predictable Revenue. It's a fantastic way to understand a fundamental B2B strategy. The toughest thing in B2B selling is getting to a decision maker. That's the single toughest thing. It helps when Andrew Banks sends the introduction email. You tend to get right to who you need straight away, which really, really does help you.
That's also why turning the customers use you once into a client, because you've already got a relationship, so that also makes it faster.
Yeah. Read the chapter called Cold Calling 2.0. It's about using LinkedIn and intentional redirections, right? So let's say hypothetically, Andrew and Tricia, they're working the same business. Andrew's the man I'm trying to get to. I don't contact him, I contact Tricia. Just in general, by the way.
Very smart move.
Yeah. So I might send a message to say, "G'day, Tricia, just a quick one. And I will thank you in advance because there will be no need for further communication from me upon your response. What I just said is, reply to me, I'm going to go away." Which subconsciously suggests, don't reply to me you're going to have to deal with me again, right? So I'll say that one more time. Tricia, just a quick one, and I will thank you in advance, because there'll be no need for further communication from me upon your response. Now, I know that you're not the right person because you're the GM over there at ABC Limited, but I'm looking for the individual that's responsible for X, and I believe that's Andrew Banks. Is that correct? 1 in 4 people will respond yes. Now I'm going to contact him. G'day, is that Andrew? Andrew, Jack Corbett, ISI Training, how are you? Mate, just a quick one. I was speaking with one of your associates, Tricia Stevens, yesterday, and she actually suggested you and I should continue the conversation because you're the one that's responsible for X. Is that correct? He says, yes. My foot's in the door. I found my decision maker. That's a great B2B strategy for you. Sorry to have interrupted. In there.
But no.
This is going to be the final question. We have primarily reserved that for the VIPs, for the people that, but it does seem like we may have exhausted your questions in the front. You guys give me a quick nod. Are you comfortable with taking a question from this gentleman? Yes, sir. Fire away. Fire away.
Oh, sorry.
Okay, wonderful. I'll shout to them.
My question is, Andrew, how would you do in my case, because I just moved recently from Europe to Australia, and I see in Europe I was selling electromuscle stimulation machines, full body, and in Germany there are hundreds of these micro studios.
Yeah.
And in all Australia I think there are around 10.
We had a guy on Shark Tank who had that technology and pitched it. Yeah, on the TV show. Yeah, it was where you put these electrodes on you and you work out and they... No, not that one?
Now it's like a wet suit.
Yes.
And there's inside electrodes and it's connected with a computer.
Yeah, it was that thing. Sorry,
And
I described it badly. It was that thing.
for example, in Munich, the city with 1.5 million
Yeah.
people, there are 300 of these micro studios.
Yeah.
And Sydney is like 4 million, and there is in Sydney, I think, 3.
Yeah.
And now I see a huge opportunity to
Big
bring this
opportunity, yeah.
technology
Yeah.
because I've been
So what's the question?
My question is how or what would your strategy to bring that here to get investors from Europe or what would you do in my case?
Well, remember Australians are from another planet, so their bodies are built differently.
That's why I asked you. I'm here.
No, seriously, I mean, if I'm blunt, it is a slightly lazy way to exercise, isn't it?
20 minutes, it's like...
Yeah, that's what I said. It's a lazy way to exercise. Australians will love it. Huge market. I mean, look, we've all we've seen great opportunities overseas, want to bring them here. I remember coming here as an Englishman, don't laugh, and they said, ooh, the Mars bars, they're not the same here, are they? And I go, no. And I said, oh,
There's no monster.
And then, no, this is, because we did, this guy's not a whinging Tom, I'm not, but there was a thing called a whinging Tom, because when I came, 150,000 a year, and they'd land at the airport, and there'd be flies and hot, and oh, I don't like this, I'm going home. Anyway, sorry about that. But with us, you got your money's worth. And so the bottom line is,